Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video, I wanted to walk you through me redoing my portfolio for job applications. So this is different from the design portfolio that you typically submit at university to get graded on. I've kind of been trying to condense all of my work into a sample portfolio of 10 pages, 10 to 11 pages. And it's been quite the journey because I have already got a sample portfolio, but I was looking back on it and just realized that it wasn't really up to scratch. And although I've just been applying casually to jobs, I really want to put my best foot forward and make sure that the work I'm presenting is something that I'm also proud of and not just a compilation of things that I've done. So I'm quickly going to walk you through what my portfolio looks like right now and the things that I'm kind of hoping to change and redo and add and edit, and why I'm doing those things as well. So hopefully if you are in the same position, this video could help you. So this is my initial portfolio that I put together, I think in around June, right after I had finished uni for the year. And typically this is also the time when people start applying for jobs that are due to start in September. So just to give you some context on how the academic timeline works, in the UK at least, is that you finish around May, and then typically you would start your year out of experience and practice in September or maybe in the new year. And this is obviously when like jobs are really hot, everyone's looking to hire and so on and so forth. So I've kind of missed that period, which is why I'm like, this is a great chance for me to, I guess, just rediscover the things that I've done and also make sure that I'm, putting together a portfolio that is quite coherent and seamless and catches the eye of someone looking at it as well. So this is the front cover. It's of my 5th year final model. So I wanted to have a really impactful image on it. The text that I've used over here for like my name and stuff has been taken directly from my design portfolio. So it's a bit, out there, it's a bit different, but I don't mind it so much. And then this first page is essentially my 4th year work. So I've only included my master's work just because I feel like when you're trying to condense work in 10 pages or less, it's best to put your best work forward. And so that's kind of just been the past 2 years for me. And I wanted to include like a range of different things rather than just try and do renders from each of my projects through architecture school. So this is, my 4th year work. These are 2 of my renders that I did for a future rep module. So basically I've just got the images, little captions, what software I used for each of these images, a little kind of description about the project, and then I've also included the link to the commendation I got as part of the RIBA Reba J Eyeline Award. So that was also a nice thing to note. So I mean, like looking at this first page, you'll basically see that there's a lot of different elements going on. I think I just wanted to keep it simple, but also add a little bit of flair, which is why you'll see icons like this one, the difference in like text. Obviously this is good to see like on screen, and it's quite legible, but I do think that if it were to be printed, some of the text and things might be too big. This is the second page, so it's kind of showing a bit more like technical work. You've got an elevation at the top there, that I rendered and like edited in Photoshop, and then at the bottom half of the page you've got a technical detail. So this is something that we were basically asked to do as part of a technology module or report, and it shows kind of like a cutaway axo, the detail itself, a plan, and then the components that I designed within this project to create those details too. So that was like another really important element that I wanted to include, because it just shows like that, these elements are very, very bespoke and custom, and they all came from somewhere. So it's not your simple like average detail in a sense. And then this is like a standout render that I wanted to include as well. It's like literally the most popular render that I've done in this project, and it's probably my favorite as well. So I've just included that as a full spread. And then next to that, I've got an aerial plan of the whole building. So this is actually something I did much later on, and it's easy to do an aerial plan because you don't get to see everything that's inside, and a lot of this project did have holes in it. So I quite like this graphic just because it sets the scene and context of where the site is and where the project happens and so on. But yeah, so far with this project, I think you'll see like there's not really a visual style as such. You do have tones and things that are similar. I guess the renders have a similar quality to them, but yeah, it's not really, you know, exciting, I would say. And then we get on to my 5th year project. So this is basically New Paradisa, which is my 5th year final project. And this was looking at Persian carpets. I've got a lot more videos and explanations on what this project is if you want to check those out. I've included this like standout image that I did maybe like halfway through the year because I just wanted to have something that encompassed what the project was without it being a image of the model. So again, like this is the render, and then I've got a description and what software I've used. And then I included again, like photo of the model, but also like as a render. So it's kind of like 2 in 1. And then a hand drawing as well, which is part of the larger series. And then a final like bigger image of the model that you can see a bit more clearly. And then I move on to my practice experience. And I wanted to include this because I luckily did have visuals to include. Most of these were basically just illustrations, like they weren't really that technical or detailed or anything, but I've outlined like everything that I was doing on a day-to-day basis, my responsibilities, the different work stages and so on and so forth. You've got an example of a plan, elevations that I worked on, and then a series of like illustrations. And this was something that I actually introduced to the practice, like this style. So I was really keen to include that. I'm not really sure whether or not I will keep these pages in the next iteration, just because again, like they feel very simple and plain and like don't really speak to the skills that I had learned in practice, because I mean most of this was like used like from a template they already had, and materials they already use, or like assets and stuff. So yeah, something to think about there. And then finally I included a page on my thesis as well, because I really wanted to kind of show that I have a breadth of different skills, and writing is one of those. So I included a small synopsis of my thesis, and then also just some press links. So obviously you've got to scale. I had an article in the Architects Journal, so I included that as well, just again to show that I have an interest in the wider industry rather than just simply architectural design. And you know, I mean, like the work is great, but I do feel like the portfolio as a whole could use some personality. It could use a bit of like tying up so that it tells a story rather than just having the work on every single page. So this is the current iteration of the portfolio that I'm working on, and you'll basically be able to see that a lot of the work is the same. The content is pretty much there. I've only really adjusted the composition of the pages and tightened up everything. So immediately you'll see that there's grid lines and guides, because I wanted everything to have its own place and tie together with like the page before. So I've kind of, you know, opted for a zoomed in version of this model image just because I feel like that previous one was good, but you weren't able to see a lot of the detail that I put into this model. And from this image, you get more of a glimpse into it as well. And then I opted for a nice, cleaner, like modern font. This is just Inter, but I've reduced like the character spacing to -75, just so it looks, I don't know, a lot more cooler, I guess. You can find inspiration for graphic design and poster styles on websites like Pinterest or Behance, or even follow creators on Instagram, because they'll have a lot of like cool aesthetic tips. And I think we can definitely bring in a lot of these techniques into our portfolios as well. So let's get onto this first spread. Now you'll notice that unlike that previous iteration where I just had one page by itself, I've opted to go for spreads instead. And this is a lot, you know, a lot of it is inspired by looking at portfolio reviews. So there's a whole portfolio review series by the channels Let's Show It Better and Learn Upstairs. And they kind of run through and critique different types of portfolios. And I really like that series because you get to learn a lot from everyone around the world. And you get to kind of see why they like the stuff that they like and why it works. So I do think that, you know, opting for a spread rather than just single pages has already like made it a lot better. So in terms of composition, I've opted to kind of keep the text up here in the top left corner, just so it's like simple, easy to read and scan. And then I've included this like render, black and white render of the structure, which was quite like, I guess, the most complex part of this project. And it's equally as just important to show that off too. So you've got good hierarchy in the sense that you've got the title of the project, where the site is, what year I did this, the description, and the fact that I was also commended for that drawing competition. And then I've included the same elements, pretty much this elevation, the details, and this render of the structure, which is these columns, as you can see here. I haven't really added any captions or additional text here and there, just because I want the page to have a bit of breathing space and just let it, I guess, speak for itself rather than adding too many things for people to look at. And then on this next spread, I've included my renders. So again, like you'll see there's a really good, I guess, separation in the visual identity, whereas this is a lot more toned down, black and white, cooler. And then you get into the renders and it's a lot more fun and vibrant. Definitely just keeping this on a spread and these two by themselves. I think this works a lot more better rather than trying to kind of like piece them all together at once. So that's my 4th year project. And then my 5th year project, same layout where I've got the text, the description, and then I've opted for a few different elements to show the kind of like first part of the project, which is a lot more research and like investigative, where I've kind of like designed these threads and like these collages and even this, I guess, render collage, you could call it. And aside from like the city carpet master plan, I was also designing the loom that created this carpet. So I wanted to include that as like a collage too, because then the next spread goes into the drawing and the bigger part of the project, which is like where I've included this render. And I opted for a different hand drawing as well and kind of like kept that on its own page just because, again, it shows a new type of skill. So yeah, I think that's a spread that works a lot better. And now I've basically been working on these 2 pages, these final spreads, thinking about how I can compose them. So essentially I'm just kind of tightening everything up, adding a lot more white space, because that also allows you to be a bit more careful with what you want to include, and limiting like each project to about 4 pages. Again, does make you think about what you want to show and what skills you want to show. So for example, this project, I'm trying to show the fact that I have created this narrative of the loom. I have the ability to kind of create really good high quality collages that again tell that story. I can experiment with things like Photoshop, same here, rendering, hand drawing, model making, but also rendering. And I think having that kind of final model on the first page does speak for itself, and I don't really need to kind of like repeat that later on in the portfolio either. So yeah, I'm kind of like attacking it spread by spread so that both pages work together, and then it kind of like tells a story that way rather than everything being very separate and disconnected. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one.